Hello, and welcome to Get Recc'd. I am your host, Louis Falgout,
And I am your other host, Stephen Falgu.
and this is the part where we're going to dick around a little bit, so why don't you begin?
Here it is. This is that part that everyone comes in to listen to.
Why don't
I just want to start by saying welcome to our podcast. We did this last time. I think it's good to do it every time. For those who are unfamiliar, for whatever reason, this podcast is called Get Recc'd, where every week I recommend something to Louis, Louis recommends something to me, and then in the following week we talk about it and the cycle continues.
Yeah, and I would like to stress that the show is in fact called Get Recc'd. I feel like that's the most important thing that Steven just said.
Yeah. So if you tuned into this and you thought it had a different name, you would be wrong.
Yeah, time to leave, buddy.
Time to leave.
Hi, Pova. So this is our 15th episode. It's a huge occasion for us here on the show to be at number 15, similarly to how it was a huge occasion for us to be at the number 14 last episode. Honestly, every time, it's just like we're just hitting another milestone every time. I've been pretty amazed.
All good things start at 15.
Which is why we didn't start at 15.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, I think we should get into it, yeah?
To it.
All right. So, Steven, would you like to introduce what you wrecked me last time?
So last time I recommended to you Because the Internet, the album or mixtape. I don't know if we ever determined which it was.
It is a studio album. I found out it is a studio album.
Okay, the studio album Because the Internet by the artist Childish Gambino, released in 2013, I believe.
Yes.
This was right around the time when I feel like Donald Glover was becoming increasingly popular as he was on shows like Community. Now it feels like he's everywhere between his show Atlanta and then also in like every movie ever, and still creating tracks and albums as Childish Gambino. So with that, I will pass it back off to you to get some thoughts.
Yeah, so the first thing I like to say is just give you an idea of what my expectations were going into this album, because I frequent music fan circles, specifically the more angering ones, but and the hype around Childish Gambino and this album has not been positive. Most people in the circles I frequent tend to be very lukewarm on Childish Gambino. I've heard particularly negative things about his first album, Camp. And so I wasn't exactly anticipating I certainly wasn't anticipating to love this album or to think that it was great or anything like that. And honestly, what I expected was some pretty substandard pop rap. That's what I thought this was going to be. But I had heard, positive hype around Awaken My Love, which I guess was like an alternative R&B album or like a funk album. I don't know, something like that. I honestly don't know much about it. I've heard Redbone, I think, once. And then I've also heard his new track, This Is America, which is great. So, going into this, I didn't think I was going to hate it either particularly, but I didn't really know. The one thing I will say I definitely was not expecting was I was not expecting an abstract hip-hop album.
Right.
Which, to call it just that is not exactly true. This isn't like fucking Mad Villain or something, but there are some tracks on here that are pretty weird. Nothing that I wheeled back at, but it's just like all I'm saying is it is not the pop rap that I expected it to be. The production is creative, it's varied. There's a lot of beat switch ups. In an abstract hip hop vein. Again, it's not the most abstract thing in the world, but different. Before I get into it specifically, I'll say that I liked it more than I thought I would. So I can say that. I can say that as a positive. I think that to my understanding, there was a screenplay to go along with this. I don't know if you know about that, Steven, but that's what I heard is like this album is like a story and it's supposed to complement the screenplay that he wrote. I did not read the screenplay. I'm going to guess you haven't either.
No, I didn't even know about that.
Okay. Yeah. So that, just from listening to the album alone, you don't get much of a story. I can see how there may be one here, but I don't pick up on it really. Yeah, so
yeah, well, just the tracks themselves have a progression, and that they have like a numerical progression tied to them.
Yeah, like
sure that weaves into the screenplay.
Yeah, like in parts, you'll have like 1, 2, 3, and then a transition track, and then like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a transition track, and like 1, 2, 3. So it keeps like going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So it's like as if bulks of tracks are separated into almost acts, is what I'm guessing it might kind of be. I'm not really sure, to be honest.
Yeah, I would assume that if that's
yeah. So right off the bat, yeah, production is very solid. There's a lot of really pretty moments on this. There's a lot of really creative things done with these beats. One moment that stuck out to me that did kind of reel me back a little bit when I first heard it was on the track Zealots of Stockholm. When the beat switch up happens, it's just like this blare of noise and sound just like whipping all around you before the beat switches. And I was like, whoa, that was kind of cool. And a lot of moments like that on the track World Star, for example. It's like most of the songs, I'm not really that crazy about it. But he's talking about the website World Star and how there's this lyric like, we all want to be on World Star, we don't want to be on World Star. Because everybody wants to be this sort of, everybody wants to be famous on the internet, but I don't think anybody wants the repercussions that come from it. And obviously World Star is a particularly toxic place where it's just a bunch of fight videos. But this track, like, it has this sort of dirty beat for a lot of it that sounds honestly kind of generic, but then it, like, towards the end of the song, there's like a sax solo that fades in.
Yeah.
And it's just stuff like that where it's like, it's not like anything I haven't heard before. I'm not trying to say that Childish Gambino and the producers on this record were like onto some hint of genius. I've heard hip hop music like this. I mean, there are plenty of albums came well before this that are far more inventive, far more creative. But still, I mean, this is a very, very mainstream popular artist, and I just didn't think this was the kind of thing I was going to be hearing. And so that kind of stuff I liked a lot.
And this is a very mainstream popular album too.
Yeah, I feel like every Spotify ad ever has a picture of this album in it somewhere.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So that being said, it's not inaccessible by any stretch of the imagination. And there are some pop rap songs, which, by the way, are some of the best stuff. Like the 3-track back-to-back of Telegraph Avenue, Sweatpants, and 3005 is like the best stretch on the record. And those also happen to be, to my knowledge, the 3 lead singles.
Yep.
So, is he a bit of a singles artist on this album? Yeah, I would say so. I don't think any of the album tracks really compare to those. Well, maybe a little bit, but not quite the same level. Like, my favorite track was Sweatpants. Sweatpants is a fucking banger, and I have actually heard that song before. But there's some great wordplay on here.
I like the Worst Guys quite a bit, mainly because I also like Chance the Rapper quite a bit, and I think in general I would say they're on this album, but the features are good features that he has.
Yeah, and they're used in the features are used to usually just as a hook, Childish Gambino will rap alongside them in a hook or something like that. They're never like at the forefront, which I guess I kind of liked because it made the album more of his album. It didn't start to feel like a compilation of different rappers and singers and stuff like that. But yeah, like, the big singles off of this record are really well made. They're really fun. They're very catchy. And again, production is just great on these tracks. Now, if I have some complaints, I do have quite a few. One problem I have is that the album isn't paced very well. Like, for about 9 tracks here, I think it works. But once you start to get to the party sequence and onwards, like a lot of the longer tracks are towards the end, so you'll get like all the 5-minute, 4-minute tracks are like shoved at the end of the album, and they don't really complement each other. They kind of slow things down. I feel like Flight of the Navigator was a pretty song, but it was also kind of a slog, just sort of tossed in there. I felt like, and yes, very nice track, very nice production, but overall the song itself is a little boring, to be honest.
Yeah, the back half of this album definitely slows down to a crawl.
Yeah.
And I wonder, based on, see, I didn't know about this screenplay connection, but I wonder if, you know, there's some tie there as to why it is structured in such a way.
There could be. And I mean, I will say, when you get to the last 3 tracks, Pink Toes, Earthfield's Computer, and Life the Biggest Troll, I think these 3 tracks are very nice closer for the album, you know. I don't think that it's like the album just totally fizzles out. I think that it's, in the first 9 tracks, it kind of ranges from being like decent to fantastic. And then in the second half, it's all pretty much just good. Which I have no problem with that. If anything, it gets more consistent towards the end, but it's like, yeah, you don't really get any amazing stuff towards the end of the album. I did like Pink Toes quite a bit. Especially Jane, I don't know how to pronounce her name, Jane Aiko, I'm guessing. Don't kill me if I said that wrong. But her performance on Pink Toes is fantastic. I loved it. Very heavenly. And and then there's the track Earn too, which I feel like really hints at what he was going to do with like Awaken My Love, because it kind of sounds like what I'm familiar with from that album. And he's singing on the whole thing. Let's see, what else do I want to talk about here? Yeah, Crawl. Crawl's a really good song as well. Great opener.
I want to kind of zoom into the tracks that you talked about.
You cut off a little bit there. What'd you say?
The pop tracks. So I think at the time this was not anything revolutionary. However, I will say that a lot of these tracks, these pop tracks specifically, were a little bit of a different sound than what was on the radio at the time. I think that these really have shaped kind of Gambino's sound. Now, what I do think is interesting as well is like you go from this album to Awaken My Love, which is just completely different. And in fact, even around that same time when he was touring and appearing on radio programs for the Awaken My Love time frame, like all he was doing was playing like R&B covers, and he kind of like got away from a lot of this rap specifically. But I think that like 3005 Sweatpants really kind of an evolution of what came out of Camp, which had a couple popular pop tracks on that as well, which are, I think the one thing I like about Gambino is he has a really good flow.
He does, yeah.
I really like his flow, and especially on these pop tracks, his flow hits, and he's not afraid to, I guess I would say, make fun of himself a little bit, or make fun of the media a little bit, like the medium a little bit. Like for instance, when he's talking about, in the one track when he's talking about the car, and like he has this like revving up the engine, and then he like stops the track and says, no, they don't do that.
Fiska's engines don't make that sound.
Yeah. And so he'll do stuff like that in his tracks, and I like that too. So even hearing that in the pop tracks is pretty fun.
Yeah, I certainly feel like he has a personality. I don't know that it's altogether unique, but it's like if I hear him on another song from here on out, I'll probably recognize it as him, which is good. And his lyrical content is a little nerdier than
sure.
Than like, I guess, your average rapper. Again, I don't want to make it sound like he's unique, because I don't think that he is, and I don't think that this album is. However, I do think it has a personality. If you understand the difference, you know what I'm saying. So it's like,
definitely.
And the thing is, like, the one issue, though, I think sometimes with that is I think a lot of the referential lyrics, they range from being entertaining to just really corny and bad. Like, he does a lot of, he puts a lot of puns and jokes into his verses, and those go over pretty hit or miss. Like, that's one problem I did have. And, his flow is fantastic, but when you really hone in on some of the things he's saying, a lot of it's kind of corny, and not, like, in a fun way. So I felt that hampered the tracks every now and again. But
It's not on this album, but on Camp, he talks about Super Smash Brothers, and I appreciated that.
oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I will say one thing. Listening to a rapper like him or other rappers that do similar things can be fun if you are a nerd, but it's still like, you do have to, like, at some point you have to acknowledge he's just shouting out references so the nerds in the audience can say, yeah! I mean...
Yeah, well, thankfully I'm not a nerd, so
Of course, right.
yeah, I'm a cool guy.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I mean, that being said, I was not annoyed by him at any point. You know, maybe here or there I might have kind of been like, oh, that was kind of a cringeworthy line, but nothing terrible, nothing consistently bad. And honestly, I don't think there's a bad track on this album. Like, I didn't think any track was bad. There were tracks that were weaker than others, but I didn't think anything was bad. And that's good because it's a 19-track list. And one thing I will say with that is it does, as we were saying, because it slows down towards the end, the album does drag a little bit. You know, it's maybe a little longer than it needed to be. Not a lot, but definitely a little bit. I mean, I think a few tracks could have been cut. And I'm not even talking about the transitional tracks because I liked all that stuff. But some of like the songs, I think could have been cut. But, you know, as it stands, it's like, I enjoyed it thoroughly. I don't know if I'd say I was impressed, but maybe a little surprised, because I didn't expect to like it at all, really. And I did. One thing I do want to say is that, because I was listening to it on Spotify, when the album was over, it would switch to another
Did it immediately make you sign up for Spotify Premium because you bought into their...
Oh, it tried a lot, but thankfully I was able to avoid it with my Supreme.
Some executive at Spotify was like, "Oh my God, he picked the one that we show him all the time."
Yeah, but when the album would end, it would go to another Gambino track, and it was always one from Camp. And I did listen, so I've now listened to like a track or two off of Camp, and oh my God, I am not a fan of what I heard off of that record. I mean, I'm glad I went here first, because I feel like if I had chosen to listen to him, I might have gone in order. I'm glad I didn't, because I think I would have just stopped after Camp. If it's anything like the songs I heard, I did not like it. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because knowing
Did you listen to Heartbeat?
I don't know if I did. But I did. I don't remember what the songs were that I heard. I heard like 2 or 3, but I hated them on first listen at least. And I noticed Donald Glover sounded whiny. His lyrics were kind of whiny. Like, it was just, and the production was like just bad. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because seeing as this was the next album he did, I mean, even though I'm not like enamored with this, like, this is absolutely a huge step up from Camp, from what I am familiar with at least. Now, I'm assuming you've heard Camp, so maybe you can agree or disagree.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree.
Yeah. And
I feel like the production on his albums only continues to increase, because then Awaken My Love is crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, this yeah, I don't know. I don't have much else to say. If you have anything to say, you can go ahead and round that out before I finish off here.
No, I would agree. I think that this is I think you bring up a good point. Like, if you're going to get into Gambino, this is definitely where I would say you should start. This is a good... I like most of the tracks on here. I like the pop tracks that came off of this one. And I think that this kind of set the tone for him as an artist. And then I think I will just say, this is not specifically related to this album, but this dude is ridiculous. All of his creative endeavors that he is currently undergoing right now, it's like he's just putting out hit after hit, whether it be television or film appearance or then under the Childish Gambino name. So it's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, so to wrap it up, it's like, yes, I enjoyed this record. I think it's good. I think it's solid all the way through. I never really felt like there was like a weak point. The latter half is definitely the weaker point, but like it's still good. I mean, I liked every track. I I loved, a handful. And yeah, I mean, I'm definitely probably after this going to check out Awaken My Love. It was something that was on my radar for a while now. So I loved his new track, This Is America, as everybody else basically did. So I'm curious to see whatever his next album is as well, and maybe I'll listen to Camp if I really want to do that. But overall, I think I'd give this let's say 7. Say 7 out of 10. It's like, this is a good album. I liked it, and I thought it was fairly consistent. It's creative. There's a bar here or there that I wasn't crazy about. I don't think the production is off the wall amazing, but it is creative, as I kept saying. Because that's really what I think. It's like, yes, this album isn't altogether unique. Yes, it is not the most creative thing I've ever heard, but it's creative enough to be interesting. And Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, is a good rapper, at least technically. Even if his lyrics here or there might falter, it's like he has a great flow. He can flow on like pretty much all these tracks fantastically. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on this album. What about you?
Yeah, I'd probably echo that. I'd give this right about a 7. Maybe I'd be a little more generous, maybe like 7.5. Probably not up to an 8, but yeah, I agree. I think that for the most part, really solid. Definitely got me into Childish Gambino, and I still go back to this every now and again. So,
okay, so I think we're going to move on.
Yep.
Okay. Actually, before we do that, I'm going to real quick technical difficulties, everybody. I'm going to mute us both for just a second. Hold on. All right, everybody, we are back. And I'd also like to ask everyone, if you can, to just let me know how the mix is right now. It was pretty terrible last episode. I was a little too loud, and it looks like I may still be a little too loud. So please let us know. I can adjust that at any point. Okay, so now we're actually moving on to what I recommended, Steven, which was 4 episodes of My Little Pony.
Hey, this is doing it live, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Technical difficulties.
Hey, listen. Sometimes it's
what happens.
It happens sometimes. Yeah, listen. It's a broadcast. Anyway, I recommended Steven 4 episodes of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. I recommended him the season 1 premiere and finale, and also the season 2 premiere and finale. And we decided we're gonna tackle each episode individually.
I can't wait.
I guess we're still gonna. Okay, yeah. So I'm just gonna let you start with the premiere here.
Okay. So, oh boy. I'm trying to think of how to structure my thoughts here. I want to start by, instead of going after each one individually, just really quickly talking about some broad thoughts that I have on the show. So what I'll say is, I don't like the way this show looks. For whatever reason, there's just something a little off about the animation quality, and the one thing that like bugged me specifically are the very hard outlines that everything has. I don't know what it is about it. It just really was throwing me off, and I never felt like it got better. I not to say that I think the animation is bad. I think the animation quality is fine, but it just didn't click with me. I just could not get over the fact that I just really did not enjoy the way that this thing looks. I also felt like, maybe this is just me, but I also felt like the audio mix was weird. I felt like for whatever reason, their voice lines were coming in too loud based on everything else that was going on, and it oftentimes felt like the voice was not even attached to the character because of like the way that it was coming in. I don't know why.
Huh.
But that's just some thoughts that I had right off the top.
That may be our biggest disagreement that we have, but I'll wait.
Okay. Now, and I want to be clear about that. I'm not saying that I think the voice acting was bad. I actually think that all the voice actors here are really great, and a lot of the voice actors here, I'm pretty sure I've heard before in other places. But just the way that those voices then attached to the characters, I don't know, just it didn't work for me. I want to talk about each of the ponies too before we get into the individual episodes. I do not like this Pinkie Pie character. I do not like her one bit. Wow. What a character they hit you with just right off the top. Quite the character it is.
Very high pitched, very yelling
very
in your face all the time.
Just really great. Not annoying at all. Okay. I'm trying to think if I have any other general thoughts. Oh, the last thing I would say is most of the time I skip the intro.
Well, yeah. I think everyone does.
I just did not enjoy that. Okay. So let's talk about these episodes individually.
Yep.
The first episode, pilot episode, coming out of the gate, I felt like this episode, this pilot, the first part of the pilot, because really this is like a two-parter, right?
Yeah, it's a two-parter.
So I felt like it was very slow to get moving. This is just my thoughts.
Yeah, no, I mean
on the first part specifically. I'll talk about how that changed a little bit in the second part. But I felt like I didn't really understand why I should be caring about what was happening. It just was like it was moving quickly, but not really progressing anywhere at the same time. So it opens up and you're following Spike, the little dragon thing, and Twilight Sparkle, and she's trying to learn about there's like an old folk tale about how there was like a bad pony, and
yeah, that's basically
she wants to like take over the world, and she's now the moon or something. And so Twilight Sparkle is like trying to learn about the elements of harmony, because she thinks that this thing is an event that's because like it's destined that this moon lady who comes back from the moon to take over the world, which ultimately ends up happening, not in this episode, but she is kind of an understudy of the princess. And so the princess sends her off to Ponyville, which is just a great name for a place.
Yeah, very, very thoughtful.
Very thoughtful, very thought-provoking. Sends her to Ponyville to ultimately mostly make new friends, is what she's instructed to do.
Because she like ignores her 3 friends, I guess, in the beginning, which I never understood, because it's like, why do they even like her in the first place?
And that's what I'm talking about with this first episode. I was like, what is happening? Like, why do I care about her and her like her friends that she kind of ignores? Well, anyway, she's like a recluse, and so she doesn't care about anybody, and so she has to basically learn how to care and how to have friends. This first episode is mainly an introduction to all the characters, which again, I would say I felt like it didn't really have this is where like I kind of felt like this thing moved quickly but didn't really progress, because Twilight Sparkle's going around meeting all the other ponies, but you really don't have any time to like even understand their connection or their character at this point. It's just like these really quick, almost in a way like a montage of just like going through and meeting all these different characters.
Well, and another thing is too, it's like save for maybe Fluttershy, it's like you don't even really know much about them when you meet them. Like they don't
exactly.
It teaches you almost nothing. It's just like here's this pony, here's what they look like, they're doing a thing. Okay, next, moving on.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It almost became like this montage of like you have Fluttershy, who that was probably, of all the moments of all the episodes I watched, her introduction to Fluttershy was probably my least favorite thing.
Really?
Yes.
I thought that was like the best part in the beginning of this episode.
Oh, so Fluttershy is standing there teaching some birds, and then Twilight Sparkle comes up to her, and they have this awkward interaction because Fluttershy doesn't want to talk and is too shy, and she's like, me, 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 me. And it goes on for a little too long. Again, you don't really get an understanding of the character other than she's shy.
Well, that's all there is to it.
Which is really all there is to it.
Like, let's not lie about that. Yeah, but then she sees Spike and she like gets all excited because there's a baby dragon.
Right.
And then she starts
loves
talking.
The animals.
But you know what? See, here's the thing though. It's like I have to disagree here because if there's any character that you actually do. I actually think this does a good job of learning about who she is because we see her teaching the birds. She works with animals. You know, she will not talk to the pony, but she'll talk to the little animal she sees. Although it is a little strange because then he talks back and none of the other animals talk back. So I don't know how that would work if you're really shy, but whatever the case. And there's
I want to talk about something really quick here.
Yeah.
Because this came up in a couple episodes. Okay. So they're sentient and anthropomorphic.
Well, to the extent that they can talk.
To the extent that they could talk and they have human emotion.
Yeah.
Pony, unicorns, and Pegasi.
Yeah.
However, in this world, there are also cats and mice and other animals that are just regular animals.
Yeah, and then there are also mythical beasts. There's
one scene in particular, and I don't remember why this happened, where they turned some mice into horses, and then a cat tried to eat them.
Yeah, that does happen. Yeah, I think that's in the next episode. I think that it's sort of like if you had a fantasy realm with humans in it, you would have all the human animals, but you'd also have mythical creatures, and like the ponies are like the humans here substituted. But the only weird thing about that is it's like, well, they live in a different like planet. Like it's not even the same universe at all. So I guess I never thought about that. Is a little odd. It's a little odd.
This episode also is our first introduction to them saying every pony or some pony.
Yeah, that always got kind of obnoxious.
And that was very obnoxious. Yeah. I did not enjoy that.
It's not even a pun.
It's not even a pun. Like, it's not even good. I don't even get it.
You could just say
ponies have bodies.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the exact same thing. Yeah, I know.
Anyway.
So I think we should hurry up through the first part of this, though. So, I mean, she meets all the friends, and like we said, all the introductions are rushed and quick. I mean, I don't think Fluttershy's is, to be honest. But I guess everybody else just... they're portrayed as like a stereotype, and then you move on, and that's it. And it's like, okay... But moving into the next part, they're like preparing the sun celebration for Princess Celestia, the sun god, I guess. And then that's when Nightmare Moon, the moon pony Steven was talking about, shows up. And then part 2.
Yes. The other thing I'll mention on this one is like, so your first interaction with Pinkie Pie is she sees Twilight Sparkle and screams and runs away. And then the next interaction is Twilight Sparkle finally makes it back to her library to be reclusive, and Pinkie Pie is throwing her a huge party. Yeah. And she's like, Twilight Sparkle goes up to her room and it's like, I hate all these every ponies. But anyway, so as you mentioned, so that's the first episode. I did not enjoy the first episode very much. I did not think it was a very strong pilot. Honestly, it was just an excuse to get all these characters together without even really giving you a reason to care about any of these characters.
Well, but I mean, to be fair, I don't think you can necessarily wrap it up just yet, because I mean, it's like these two parts are very much one episode. It's just that because episodes are in 22-minute blocks, it's like split up into two.
Yeah.
So I mean, but you're right and I agree. The first part is like easily the weakest part of this pilot, and it's like, it seems like it needed more time, but then I don't know how I feel about. Anyway, let's talk about part 2 because I'll get to that.
Yeah. So then going into part 2. So this is where I started to enjoy what the show was going for a little bit more, because man, if you think about it, this show really just came out swinging with a plot line, because this is, it's a show about My Little Pony, and their very first arc is having to go on a hero's journey to fight a nightmare moon creature
who is going to make it night forever, by the way.
Who's going to make it night forever.
It's like, that kind of sucks, but it's like not the biggest threat in the world, honestly.
Everyone will get sleepy.
Yeah,
though.
everyone will go sleepy. I mean, you'll get used to it.
Okay, so in the second part, as I mentioned, they kind of go off on a hero's journey. They go together for a reason that I don't remember. I know Twilight Sparkle is not super thrilled about it.
Well, they say that they're her friends before like they even know her at all, which is another weird thing about part 1, is that I guess it really didn't have enough time to establish that they were becoming friends, because like the next episode, like, we're coming with you because we're your friends, and I think it's reasonable for her to be like, well, what the fuck? No.
Yeah, because the one thing I would say that like really confused me the most about that was, okay, Pinkie Pie, Applejack, right? That's her name.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Applejack, yeah. Harmony,
Rarity,
Rainbow
Dash,
and Fluttershy, and
Rainbow Dash.
So, well, I'm getting there. So those Pinkie Pie, Applejack, Rarity, and Fluttershy, they going on this journey with Twilight Sparkle on the premise of we're your friends wasn't super surprised. Like, it wasn't out of the character that I knew of them at this point, right? Like, Applejack was super homey and helpful and nice. Fluttershy really just liked the little dragon thing. Pinkie Pie was just obnoxious, and Rarity was like whatever. But the one that really confused me was Rainbow Dash, because I actually thought their first interaction, Rainbow Dash was like kind of a jerk, like kind of mean. So it was like really surprising to me that this character was like, "Oh no, I'm your friend."
Yeah,
it was like, what?
Yeah, that's another problem part 1 had with this, because I think what it was going for, because this is her character, she's like very like playful.
Yeah, I wouldn't say mean. Yeah, I wouldn't say like outwardly mean, but kind of jerky, cocky, sort of.
Yeah, very cocky, but like she is loyal. But it's like you can't get that from one interaction. It's just another problem with having to introduce everybody in one episode, because you can't show that until later. And so when she shows up, I agree, it is kind of just like, well, you were just fucking like washing her off with a rain cloud, and like, I mean, and like
making fun of her and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
But anyway, so they go on this hero's journey. I do think this episode really makes this like total pilot a lot better. They meet up with a manticore. That's kind of a fun interaction. It's a classic. The manticore had a thorn in its paw. Basically, the moon unicorn is like using her magic to like kind of mess with all the different characters.
Yeah.
At one point, they are falling off a cliff.
Okay.
And they're falling off a cliff. Twilight Sparkle, who has no reason to like these people and has given no indication that she does, is holding on for dear life with Applejack, and Applejack goes, "You just gotta let go, Twilight Sparkle.
Just let go. It's the honest truth." And
just gotta let go. It's the only thing that makes sense as you're hanging off a cliffside.
Like, no. It's because she looks up. She sees that Fluttershy and Rainbow Dash are waiting to catch her. Here's my question: why didn't you just say, "Hey, they're gonna catch you"?
Right. Or why didn't they just like go down and pick her up?
Well, because here's what it's trying to do in this episode: is now we're establishing that they're all each an element of harmony. You know, Applejack is honesty, Pinkie Pie's laughter, Rarity is generosity, Rainbow Dash loyalty, Fluttershy kindness. And so each interaction they have in the forest, like one of the ponies gets to show their element, which actually I liked how they did that for the most part. But like this Applejack thing, just is this really the best you could do? Like that. See, this isn't honesty. This is called being a fucking dick. All right.
Right.
Like you looked up. You can be like, hey, look up. They're gonna catch you, or just something. I don't know. Let go, and then she does it. That's just not.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that was the silliest. The one that I liked the most actually was Rainbow Dash's trial, where she had been talking about how she wanted to race with the super fast people because she's all about going fast. And so the Moon Lady becomes a different gang of racing Pegasi and try to tempt her to join up with them and race with their crew. And I thought that this one actually was quite good, quite well done, because we had established that this was a main motivation for this character. They're like Twilight or Rainbow Dash is on one side of the bridge and needs to tie the rope to help all of them through. And it shows the trust that they then have to have within the character, and starts to really make you feel like, okay, these characters have developed some sort of a friendship or a connection. But it was a quick friendship or connection to where it almost felt like Rainbow Dash might not help them. I mean, You knew that she was going to. It's pretty much obvious, but it was done in such a way where, just based on the small interaction, that small time that you had with these characters, that you felt, I felt at least like it was well done, and it was a good trial that she had to show her loyalty, because that was her thing.
Did you like the song?
So then we get to the fucking song,
which was before this, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I was like, man, this Pinkie Pie character is really something. And then she decided to sing about laughing in the face of nightmare trees. I would say
I liked the song.
I would say, yeah, I thought the song was fine. I thought that there would be more singing in this show, actually.
No, there are songs interspersed throughout it, but it's not like there's a song in every episode, or like they're constantly singing. Or it's just like whenever there needs to be one, there is one, and sometimes when there doesn't need to be one, there is one too, I guess.
Right.
But I feel like this was a good place to put a song. I mean, seeing that this is the first song of the show, it's very like basic. Actually, because I went going back and watching this for this, I was kind of surprised by that. I kind of forgot how like basic of a song it was to open. It seems like you'd expect something more grandiose. I'm almost glad they didn't have that. But like, if there was a point to put a song to speed along one of these introductions, I do think it was here. Like, I don't know that it would have been as entertaining if they just because I don't really know that you could communicate that she's like, hey, you see that fucking tree that looks like it's about to eat you? Just laugh at it. And then everyone started laughing. I don't know if that would work.
Yeah, they would look like psychopaths.
Yeah, exactly. But like using the song, it actually works a lot better. And just generally sound design and music. We talked about technical stuff earlier, but I didn't butt in. Sound design and music complements the look of this show and the feel of this show so well that I think it's actually pretty great. And it's not trying too hard to be unique, or anything like that, but it does have its own sound. It's established over time. And I actually tend to like the songs. I don't think there are a lot of great ones. We'll get there, I guess. But you know. But anyway, there's a climax in this episode.
Yeah, anyway, this episode, they all find out that they're the elements of harmony or whatever. And so they find the elements of harmony. Twilight Sparkle tries to use her magic. It does not work. And then she realizes, oh, wait, the secret was friendship. And
all along.
I about fell out of my seat. I was so surprised. I was like, what? It was you guys, and it was friendship the whole time.
Yeah.
No way. But anyway, they do end up kind of tapping into their innate ability, fight off the thing, which I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. They, like I mentioned, so the first part of this was very slow, but I thought that in total, this pilot actually came out the gate swinging. And I mean, this was a pretty cool setup. I mean, they set up this tale that they had in the beginning. They get to this battle. They battle the lady, and Celestia comes, and she goes, hey, by the way, that was my sister.
Oh, no, you knew that from the beginning. Maybe you didn't catch that, but they say that in the very beginning. That was the tale, as like the two princess sisters, and one of them.
Yeah, but it shocked them, which was the most important
part.
Part.
That's right. That is right. But I do like that interaction, actually. I don't know.
It was my sister, and they're all like, what? Your sister that we already knew about because I read up on the thing?
Oh, only Twilight Sparkle.
Shocking.
Man. Yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah, that's true. But I do like the interaction there where she looks at her sister and her sister looks up and she's crying. She's like, I'm sorry. It's nice.
Yeah.
I don't know. I also, you didn't mention they defeat her with a giant rainbow, which is very, very nice.
Yes. A big old rainbow.
Yeah, I guess the one thing about this climactic ending is that I don't think it's that climactic. There's not really much of a battle. The only thing that happens is she breaks the elements and Twilight's like, oh no, they're broken. Oh wait, it was friendship. Oh look, we have the crowns now. And that's kind of, I don't know. You should probably wrap this one up though. We have 3 more to go through.
Yeah, I'll probably move a little quicker through the rest of these. So I would say that because this, I think, is a good foundation for the show. So I will say in general, yes, I did think that this pilot was a good. After you get past the first part, once it all kind of wraps up, I think it was a good foundation for the characters and kind of the theme and the context of the show. Obviously, you learn about friendship. I think Twilight Sparkle kind of learns and becomes friends with these characters a little too fast because. Yeah. I mean, even throughout this process, she was still kind of hesitant, and then now they're all best friends, and everyone's happy. But in general, I thought that this was a good pilot for this thing.
Yeah, and I mean, this episode's both grown on me and grown off me as I've watched it a few times now, and it's just like on the newest watching, I'm feeling like a 6 out of 10 on the whole thing. It's like it was okay. I think the problem is the first part is it's a bit of a slog. It's just really average. I wouldn't say it's bad. There are parts that are bad, but it's just average. And then the second part isn't that much better. It's like it's got standout moments, but I don't think anything here was spectacular. I never did either. It's okay. It's fine. So we'll go to the next.
Okay. So now, skipping ahead,
finale.
Yeah, so now skipping ahead to the end of the first season. Okay. So this episode, they're all going to a gala. They can't wait to go to the gala. They can't wait so much that they sing about going to the gala.
Oh yeah, the song's fucking
for quite a while.
Yeah, it's
a very long song it's about singing.
I mean, it's like 3 minutes, but like in the context of the episode, it does like.
Yeah, when you consider the episode's only like 20 minutes, 3 minutes is quite a good amount of time for singing. I mean, I like the song though. I thought it was well done.
It's very good.
Yeah, I thought it was well done. Okay, so the context of this episode is, as I mentioned, they're going to the gala. They all have these unreasonable expectations for what the gala is, and they each in turn learn that it's not all that it's cracked up to be. They try to make their own fun. They get into some hijinks and shenanigans in certain situations. But ultimately, they learn to kind of tailor your expectations, I guess, would be kind of the big takeaway here, and learn how to make the most with what you have. So the different storylines, so at least the ones that I remember, Rarity's trying to find her Prince Charming. He ends up being this really jerky dude who won't pay for her meal, which I thought was like, okay, that's
that was kind of fucked. Well, the thing is though, with her, it's like she is like the most stereotypical womanly character, and they kind of play upon that the whole time.
Definitely.
But like what I did enjoy, I think that this interaction was one of the funnier ones because like it's like over and over again, like they get into situations where it's like the gentlemanly thing to do. Like she's like waiting for him to do it, and then he makes her do it instead, and it's like it's funny.
Yeah, I don't know if I have too much to say about this episode. I thought that it was interesting to see the characters have progressed without having watched the rest of the season. So just seeing like a jump from the pilot to this was an interesting take, and so I like to see that they kind of had fleshed those characters out more, and they are all still largely stereotypes. I would say that really didn't change, but they're at least more well-defined stereotypes, I guess you could say. I liked specifically Fluttershy's arc in this one, which was she kept hearing this bird call, and it just continued to end up being just this guy who was working on the farm and whistling.
Yeah,
And I thought that was
yeah, and also like she ends up just going ape shit towards the end and like blasts them all into the fucking castle because she's so furious that they wouldn't like get along with her.
right.
You said you didn't have a lot to say. That's fine. I actually do have quite a bit to say. So some context you missed here is that this gala was built up throughout the entire season. There are like multiple episodes that are on some way based around the fact that they will be going to the gala. I think in the second episode, they all get tickets to the gala, and from then on out, it gets mentioned throughout the entire season. And so missing that context, I don't think this is quite as special, but I think with that context, I think that it's maybe this is an exaggerated word, but I think that it is brilliant that that they built this thing up the entire time. So not only are they all let down when it is just like a complete disaster, but it's like that's like actually kind of a bit of a bold move. It's like you know, maybe you would expect it to go wrong in some way, right? Like if it's getting built up to, they're not just going to go and it's just going to be nothing. Something's going to happen. But maybe you would have expected something more grandiose than this, like maybe a villain or something.
That is meta.
But yeah, but the instead what happens is it's just like kind of disappointing. It becomes a disaster, but for all them it's just like a little disappointing, and then they go furious and ruin the whole thing. But what I love is that at the very end it's like Princess Celestia shows up and they're expecting her to be mad, and she's just laughing like, oh, it's always fucking terrible, but at least it was fun this time. And it's
Yeah,
like,
did I imagine this? But weren't they in kind of like a diner or
yeah,
something?
they were in a diner, like a donut diner.
Yeah, it was like a shawarma after the first Avengers scene, basically, where they all like fucked everything up, and then they all get together to have dinner after. And
hey, this was ahead of its time.
Ahead of its time.
So yeah, I think we can wrap this episode up. It's probably the least eventful of all the four that I picked. So
Okay. Yeah, I would give this one. This was pretty middling to me. I think that without the context, maybe that's probably the biggest thing. It's like I thought it was a good episode. Like I said, I thought that was good to see the progression of the characters, but I wouldn't say it was anything that was like super special necessarily.
Yeah, I actually think it's fantastic. I'm literally going to give it a 9. I actually think it's fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah, no, seriously, I think it's hilarious, and I just love the way that it rounds out the season too. But anyway, we'll move on to the Return of Harmony. That's the season 2 premiere. Go ahead.
Okay, so the differentiation between part 1 and part 2 is a little fuzzy in my mind on this one, so I think I'll probably just talk about this as a whole. So this this set of episodes I thought was very strong. So basically, there is a character called Discord, and the episode starts with some ponies on a field trip to a garden where Discord is set in stone, and they're kind of fighting, and they're creating Discord, and they unleash Discord back onto the world. He starts creating crazy things, and as Pinkie Pie almost winked to the camera at this point, mentioned that they create chocolate rain, and she said it like 3 times, and I was like, okay, I get it. You've seen the internet before. Yeah. I have to. So anyway, but Discord is unleashed on the world. They go to Princess Celestia to try to find the elements of harmony, but Discord has taken them, stolen them away, hidden them, and now the ponies have to get together, to band together to try to face down Discord. I really like, and I think this is the first episode. As I mentioned, they kind of get fuzzy to me, but I really like everything that's happening when they go out. So he gives them basically a riddle. He said, like, through all the twists and turns, you have to go to where it all began or something like that. And there's a big hedge maze outside of the castle. So they believe that the hedge maze is where they need to go to find the elements. Discord lays down some ground rules and says, go find them, splits them all up. And then they each individually, again, have a different set of trials that they have to overcome. Although in this case, the trials are basically everything that they fear or a reflection of themselves that then kind of that then set them on a path of straying from their core element or whatever you
it
call
like turns them into essentially the opposite of their element. So like Applejack starts lying every sentence, even when like the lie is just like completely nonsensical and irrelevant.
Right.
Pinkie Pie becomes like really, hers is the weirdest because it's kind of hard to do the opposite of laughter, so she's just like not laughing, kind of. Fluttershy's like becomes super mean. Rarity hoards a giant rock because she thinks it's a diamond.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
And she names it Tom. Yeah,
she names it Tom.
Brilliant. And Applejack. Yeah. Oh, I already said it. Yeah, and like Rainbow Dash leaves. So
yeah,
that one's kind of.
I thought Rainbow Dash was actually the most depressing, and actually, strangely enough, was still in line with her character too. Because as I mentioned, some of them were more a reflection of themselves than anything. Because Discord sets up this vision of Rainbow Dash at like her home sky palace is like being destroyed.
Yeah.
And so he's like, you can either leave or you can let them all die or whatever.
Yeah.
And so she goes and she tries to save them, which again is like...
Well, she like lays on a single cloud and she thinks she's in her city.
Yeah, then she goes and she's end up just laying on a single cloud later.
Yeah.
As the chocolate rain pours down.
Of course, right. Can't stop mentioning that. Very important.
Yeah, chocolate rain. Some stay dry and others feel the pain. Anyway, so like I mentioned, I think that this is a really good set of episodes. I think the villain here is interesting and unique.
Oh, he's fantastic.
He's not villainous, but he's like a trickster god, basically.
Yeah, well, he's doing it because he thinks it's funny.
Because he thinks it's funny. He's creating cotton candy clouds and chocolate rain, and he's turning bunnies into weird long leg creatures.
Yeah, and also remember the sequence. There's a sequence when Twilight's like walking away. Because, of course, they have the moment where they all split up. And I don't mind it here as much as I do in other places because it was built up to a lot better. Like, that is the entire course of the episode up to that point, you know?
Right.
And then, of course, they're not really splitting up. Twilight's the only one who's actually splitting up because everybody else is kind of just tricked at this point. They're, like, in a different state. And plus, they're, like, they all wanted to leave, too, which is kind of funny. But as she's, like, walking away, they do all these, like, creative, like, stuff. Like, there's, like, you know, ponies running up the side of the screen and like audio going from like right ear to left ear and stuff. So it's like not only is he fucking with the entire universe, but it even like actually kind of breaks the fourth wall a little bit. I also love the point when he drinks from the glass, but like he drinks the glass away and throws it behind him and it explodes.
Right. And the drink remains.
Yeah, yeah.
He drinks the glass, but the drink remains.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Which I thought was pretty clever. And I thought it was well acted too, the villain in this set of episodes.
Oh yeah.
The one thing I forgot to mention, by the way, which I thought was also kind of weird, was there's some interracial stuff or interspecies stuff going on, where Spike, the first time they meet Rarity, is in love with Rarity.
That is weird.
Which was weird to me.
They kind of dropped that after a while, but
yeah, I'm glad that they kind of dropped that because that was strange. But anyway, back to this episode. So yeah, I think they end up finding the elements, which are actually back in the library where they started. They all take the elements. Basically, Twilight Sparkle forces the elements onto them. They're still in this weird state. It doesn't do anything. Okay, so here's where I thought this episode was a little weird. This is the part that took me out of the episode. I liked everything up until this point. I even did not, as you mentioned, I did not mind them splitting up. The weirdest part to me was they all get back together. Twilight Sparkle convinces them of themselves. They have the elements of harmony. They go back to Discord and they're like, "We're gonna kill you," and he's like, ha ha ha, yeah, whatever, kill me then. And then they just do. And it was like, what did you expect to happen, dude?
Well, what I did, okay, actually, so I agree with you. So there's the first part, they go and try to do it, but the elements don't work because none of them are into it, right? So,
right, and they're clearly discolored.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
They're clearly showing that they're not themselves.
So, but everything after this does get a little muddled. I don't think it's terrible. I don't hate it. However, the resolution of having her get a bunch of letters and then like all of a sudden she just goes to her friends and she's like, "Hey, remember?" And then they're like, "Okay." And then they beat Discord. It's a little rushed. It's a little rushed. It was like in the case of Discord, yeah, it's like if he were so chaotic to the point where he'd even be fine losing, this would make sense. But that isn't the case because he starts fucking freaking out when he realizes they're actually defeating him.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing. When he realizes they're actually defeating him, it was like, well, what did you expect to happen?
Yeah, it's like they looked like they're all smiling. They're like together. It's like clearly they're about to defeat you. Like do something. I don't know. I don't mind it too much, to be honest, but it is a bit of a damper. It just kind of feel like here at the end it fizzles out a little bit. But
besides that, I still really like this set of episodes. I would give this as like a 8, probably, maybe even higher than that. I really enjoyed watching this. I think that the characters were all, again, interesting. They've become a little bit more dynamic. Actually showing the opposite of their trope made them feel a little more dynamic of characters to me at this point. And as I mentioned, I really like the villain here. So
also the animation's definitely getting better.
Yeah, the animation definitely improved for sure.
It looks fantastic, especially with the stuff they do with like the town and everything fucking up and I mean I'm gonna slap it with another 9. I'm gonna do that because again it's like here's another case where I'm like, okay, so the very very end is probably the only part I dislike to any regard, but at the same time I'm thinking like I've never hated it. It's just been like, I kind of wish, I feel like this would have been better if they had thought a little bit more about how they got out of this slump. But I don't feel like it makes no sense. You know? It's just like, it just feels a little quick. So I would have fixed that, but that's about all I have to say from there.
Yeah, it would have, to me, it would have been really great to showcase how they've become harmonious to be able to defeat Discord, where it was more like they just all get together, they're all okay again, he becomes an idiot and they win.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Not amazing, but the rest of it is, though. I will say that. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So finally, the season 2 finale.
Okay. So, oh boy. So these were I'll say right off the top, these were my favorite set of episodes.
Hell yeah.
So the premise of this set are all the ponies are at a picnic. They get invited to a wedding. Okay, so I want to ask you something actually. Is earlier in the season or in the show, are you given an indication that Twilight Sparkle has a brother?
No. And it pissed a lot of people off when this came out because she did.
So so you would think that would be something that would have come up before, because when I heard it, I had just assumed when I heard it, when she was like, okay, let me take a quick step back. They're at a picnic. They get invited to a wedding. They get invited to a wedding in Canterlot, where Twilight Sparkle is originally from, where Celestia is. And specifically, the wedding is for a princess and the head of the guard, right? Is that what he is?
Yeah, he's like
what they call it?
Captain of the Royal Guard, I believe.
Captain of the Royal Guard, yeah.
I believe so.
Well, it turns out the Captain of the Royal Guard is Twilight Sparkle's brother. And
she like freaks out because like he never told her about it. You know,
he never told her about it. Not that we've ever even known she's had one.
Okay. So this is a point a lot of people make against the episode. I don't agree, actually, because let's say, for instance, that somebody were to make a show about you or I before this podcast. Would it have included the fact that we had a brother? Probably not. Because, like, yes, that's like a fact of your family, but for that matter, we've never seen her parents up to this point either. But everyone knows she has them.
Well, the only reason, so here's what I'll say. Like, although I'm making this point, it did not irk me or anything. I didn't feel like it really detracted from the episode. The only thing I'll say is she has this long song, a very emotional song. She starts crying about how her and her brother were so close, and now they're not. You would think if they were so close that it would have come up at some point. Because actually, the other thing that I'll mention about it is, like, her character from that very beginning pilot episode was like, she's just recluse, has no time for anybody, doesn't like anyone else. So to have not in any other episode or anywhere else have any indication that she had someone that she was like that close to seemed a little seems kind of weird to me.
It's not a terrible point, but yeah, I do think that the song and also her reaction to his letter does a very good job of introducing the fact that he exists.
Definitely.
Yeah,
and I will say that. And that's why I think that it ultimately, like, it didn't really matter to me.
Yeah.
Because I really like the song here. I think that there's actually a lot of emotion expressed here for like that I wasn't really within the other episodes. And again, I think the more that now that we're at the season 2 finale, these characters just continue to feel more dynamic to me, and especially now Twilight Sparkle with this what we're learning about her and her brother's relationship and how much it all means to her.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
they go to the wedding. They all get invited to do the big thing here is they all get invited to play different parts within the wedding. Rarity's making the dress, Applejack's making the food, etc.
Yeah.
Twilight Sparkle's being a bitch.
Rainbow Dash does a thing.
Yeah, Rainbow Dash does a thing at the very end, probably.
Yeah.
So what happens is it turns out that her brother is marrying someone who used to like babysit her, basically.
Yeah. This is another thing that pissed people off is there was a third princess that they never mentioned either.
Right.
Which, again, I again do not have a problem with, because she's a princess from another land. So it's like, yet again, it's like, why would they? Like, I could see why they would mention her, but I don't think it's that weird that they didn't. And whatever the case, she's like a princess of love or something.
Her name is like Miyamore Cadenza, right?
Princess Miyamore Cadenza.
My love Cadenza.
I do have a spoiler tag, by the way, so when we get there, I'll need to put that up.
My love Cadence.
Yeah.
When we get where, because I'm going places.
Okay. Fuck, I'm gonna mute both of us for half a second. We're back. Second technical difficulty. Hell yeah, broadcast. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, so let's put that spoiler tag up.
Okay. I didn't know we were already there. All right, go ahead.
Yes. So they go to the wedding.
Well, Twilight Sparkle, we should mention that she suspects, like, she notices that Cadence doesn't do this like childhood thing they used to do. She suspects that Cadence is evil.
Yes.
And it's
and really drills into this too.
Oh yeah.
Just becomes a total bitch.
She does not shut up. She like sits at a dinner table, like slams her fucking fist on the table, spills everybody's drink, fucking fuming.
Goes up to her and says, "You are the devil. You do not deserve to live."
Yeah, but of course, like, everybody assumes, and
I'd say, of course, she's right.
Yeah, she's right. But even
actually, so here's what I'll say about this set of episodes. Although these were my favorite set of episodes, I think so. One of the things particularly that makes Twilight Sparkle believe that something's going on is that her brother is like feeling weird, and then the lady shoots beams at him to like basically look like almost brainwash him.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think part of it is this is what everybody else in the episode suspects, and I think it's also part of it is like they think she's being possessive of her brother, but it's like at the same time it's like you have to remember she was saying she was like a really, really good friends with this babysitter, and like the babysitter's been treating everybody like absolute dog shit and doesn't even seem to recognize Twilight.
Right.
So like I think her suspicion makes sense, but I also think cleverly it doesn't make so much sense that it's like blatantly obvious she's right. I mean, I think it is fairly obvious. But the thing is like, you could also make the case that you, like, I don't know if you're absolutely certain that's the case, because it is a show about friendship. It seems like the better lesson would be that, hey, maybe you shouldn't, like, be possessive of your fucking, but that isn't the moral, of course. But I mean, so I feel like there's at least, they left some amount of suspicion as to whether she'd be right or not, even though it is still fairly obvious, but...
Yeah, I really would have liked, the one thing I'll say about this set of episodes that I really would have liked a little bit more time spent on creating that suspicion or that doubt. Because I think that it's not far-fetched to believe that like all this crazy stuff that that this imposter is doing is like outside the bounds of someone who is just really stressed about their wedding day and everything. But the speed at which she cries, runs out the room, Twilight Sparkle's like, oh, maybe I was wrong. And it's like, you were wrong. What are you doing? And then Twilight Sparkle to learn that actually she was right is really not that much.
It is pretty quick, although I think that sequence is still pretty great though. Like when she says it, she cries and runs away, and like like even fucking when Celestia tells her down, you just get like that organ sting, and like I don't know, it's pretty powerful. But you're right. It's like because then she reprises the Big Brother song, and immediately after, it's like, hey, I'm evil, bye, and then okay,
yeah, cast you to the Shadow Realm now.
Yeah,
goodbye.
It did look cool though. It did look
cool. Yeah. So she gets cast to the Shadow Realm. She there's a really cool scene where the imposter's on all the walls and it's like gemstones.
No, that's fine. Yeah, keep going.
Which is not unseen, but I thought it was cool here. And then finally she does find the real princess. They do their little special handshake basically for her to prove that she's the real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Cadence reveals, I don't even know if we mentioned it. I mean, you said it, but Cadence reveals the other one is a changeling who is essentially shape-shifting to look like her because she feeds off of the love of ponies, I think specifically, but just love in general, I think.
Yeah. And so she's using the brother to bring down the special magical guard around the city so all the little imposters can come in and mess some stuff up.
Yeah.
So they break free. Of course, it's up to our pony band again to save the day. What were you going to mention about the song?
The song is so fucking good. The song at this part, you know, they're escaping and then they sing a song. Did you forget about that?
I think I forgot about that.
What the fuck? It's like the best goddamn thing. It's like the best song in the show. No, remember they do a it's called an aria, which is clever because it's not really an aria, but it's like the same appearing character. No, it's remember when Cadence will sing a verse and then the imposter sings a verse.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
it was it was fantastic, right? It was
fantastic. Yeah, no, that's very good. That's really good.
Yeah, it was great.
And it actually reminds me a lot. It's very similar to the Gala song.
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
With a lot of this like back and forth between the characters and like the if that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's clever that it's like the exact same singer, the exact same voice singing to itself, but one of them is an imposter and one of them is not. I think it's really neat.
Yeah.
Like I don't know that I've seen that before. No, I haven't.
Okay, so anyway, we'll wrap this up quickly.
Yeah.
So our merry band of ponies go to try to save the day. Of course, it's up to them again to find the elements of harmony to fight the big bad. Celestia gets taken down by the imposter because of the love of the brother is so strong. They have to kick a whole bunch of little minion things, which I thought was very fun.
Very powerful.
And then all the little minion things become the different ponies. And I thought, how are any of them going to know which one is the real one? I wish actually they would have done something like that, but they did not.
That would have been more cliched if they had to do the like who's the real. I don't know. But it's like
not to hold on it, but it would have been fun to see one of them kick the other one.
Yeah, that is true.
Because I really hate Pinkie Pie, and I just
Why didn't they kick each other? That's my main complaint. It is a great action scene, though.
It is a really good action scene.
There's a lot of really fun visual stuff done with it, including when Pinkie Pie uses Twilight as like a Gatling gun.
Yeah, which was something.
It's entertaining.
So they get the elements of harmony.
No, they don't.
Go back.
They don't. They don't. They go up there and then they get captured. Remember, they
get captured.
Yeah, that's right. It was all for naught.
I'm trying to even remember.
Okay, maybe I should explain the end of the episode because I feel like you forgot it, which is okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I know that the real one shows up. I know that the brother snaps out of it, and it's kind of their love that fights back this evil lady.
Yeah, so they come back and it's like she sings like a reprise of the song, which isn't quite as good, but and then as she's just staring out the window, I guess, Twilight goes up and like frees Cadence, who's like held down by some gel or something, and then she goes up to Shining Armor, Twilight's brother. I don't even know if we said his name. And like kind of to get like one last like hug in or something, but in doing so, all of their love magic, I guess, just like comes out and knocks all the changelings out of the way. Which, I don't know about you, but for the longest time, would have said this was the best episode of the show. I would have said that. In fact, when I recommended this stuff to you, I still had that assumption. I hadn't seen it in a while, but I've seen it a lot. This is the one I've gone back to more than any others at this point. And upon rewatching it, I actually like it less than I ever did, and I still love it. I was prepared to give this thing a 10, because that's how I felt about it before, but I felt like I was ignoring something utterly blatant, and that is that this ending doesn't really make a lot of sense, does it?
No, it does not make a lot of sense.
Because if the changelings are there to eat their love, then why? Then how come this? I can see like. If they just explained this in some way, I feel like it could have all been gone around, because I can buy that this was just such an immense flow of love that like it was just too much for them to handle or something, which I think is what they were trying to get at, but they don't even have any line or anything to tell you this. Like it's just like they love each other, then they blow all the changelings away, but only the changelings, and I don't know. It doesn't really. When I thought about it, I was like, that doesn't really make a lot of sense, does it?
Yeah.
And it's not. Again, it's not terrible. I enjoy the sequence, but I just, yeah, that definitely could have been explained better. And then also, the episode ends on a dance party.
And then finally, Lightning or Rainbow Dash gets to do her one thing that she was responsible for.
The rain boom, which just is a thing.
Which is just a thing. And then, the dance party.
Yeah, the dance party, it's not like they dance and then it cuts to credits, but it's like there is a dance party is the setting. So it's not awful, but again, it's like, it feels a little like they could have had a better ending there. I don't know. And that's just something I guess I never noticed, but I don't know. It bothered me more. I'm going to put the spoiler tag down now, so let's finish that.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead. Okay,
so I give this set a 9. I think, as I mentioned, I think both this set and the pilot set were really strong sets of episodes. I really enjoyed watching them. I thought the villains were fun in this one and in the Discord ones. And I, again, particularly liked some of the songs on this one. I thought those were well done. And again, I think the animation quality only continued to improve.
Yeah.
Is that all about you?
Yeah. I'll give it a 9 as well. Again, I was prepared to give it a 10, and I was going to be like, surprise, I just gave a My Little Pony, but I can't, because I watched it again, and there are better episodes now that I think about it. But regardless, it's extremely entertaining. I mean, this is like, to me, this feels like a short Disney movie. Like it is really good. Like it's really well done. It's really well presented, and it's a simple enough story, but it's not too simple. And it has a twist. It's not the most shocking thing in the world, but it's there. The second song, particularly the aria in the second part, is just fantastic. I love it so much, and I think that entire sequence is awesome. I love the whole thing. I just think that, again, upon rewatching it, the ending, it could have been a little better. But yeah, animation looks amazing, as pretty much. I mean, it got a little better after here, but this is as pretty much as good as it's gonna get, all around.
So I think to wrap this up, for my final rating, instead of rating all of these episodes, we kind of rated them individually. My final rating of this thing: would I continue to watch
Right.
My Little Pony? No.
No.
No, I would not. But I think for what it is and for what I got to see, I really enjoyed it. I think that I definitely can start to understand why this has the audience that it does, and why a lot of people say that some of these are, that there's some really good stuff in here. But I think that just for the most part, overall, I probably wouldn't necessarily go back.
Yeah.
I just want to say also, just quickly, toy companies making television shows, what a genius idea. Whoever decided to do that is just a brilliant person.
Thank the 80s, all right? That was the 80s.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and that's when My Little Pony first came around. So I mean, in terms of my sum up, it's like, well, I think everybody already knows I watch this, so obviously I do. But yeah, I mean, really quick, I know we have to finish it up, but really quick, I do. You said in the beginning, I decided I'd wait. You said the things you didn't like. You didn't like the animation, didn't like the way it looks, you didn't like the sound design, all that kind of stuff. And it's funny because I think of any disagreement that we have had, which we haven't really had many throughout talking about the episodes individually, that is like the biggest one. Because I've tried, and I can't, like, out of all of the batch of sort of 2010s cartoons, like, this was among the earliest ones that kind of blew up the market again, along with like Adventure Time and all that kind of stuff. There's not a single one whose animation style appeals to me more. Like, I think this thing looks amazing. I think that the early episodes have aged kind of poorly. I didn't mention it, but yeah, the first pilot episode, the animation, did not look good anymore. But like, it was kind of probably cheaper. The budget clearly increased as time went on. Sound design gets better, animation gets better, but I mean, I think that the style itself is actually unique. And when you look across cartoons right now, and even kind of at this time, that was not a common thing, especially going a few years on to where they all now do basically the exact same style. And this is like one of the only ones that actually sets itself apart in any significant way. And I love the color palette. I like it a lot. But yeah, anyway. So I think we'll move on to the Recs, if that's okay. And Steven, I guess you'll go first. So what do you got to wreck me with?
Okay, so my recommendation for you is a podcast.
Oh shit! Fucking,
So
you guys heard it here first, guys. It's a Get Wrecked first.
So I'm gonna recommend to you a podcast called Get Wrecked. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I swear
Although
to
that would be pretty meta. No, I'm going to recommend to you a podcast called My Brother and Me, which is a podcast of three McElroy brothers who take advice from their listener base and also take advice from Yahoo Questions. And so they give advice to Yahoo Questions, question askers, and from questions that they get from their user base. I would say for this recommendation, you can kind of up to your discretion as to how many episodes each episode. By the way, it is a weekly podcast, comes out, I believe, on either Mondays or Tuesdays, about an hour long.
Okay.
Started in quite a while ago, I think back in like 2011 or so, and they had a first set of episodes, and they transitioned to the Maximum Fun network. So that is where you can find their podcast now.
Okay, and so that's your entire rec?
Yes.
Very nice. I feel entirely wrecked. And my rec is an album
by... don't wreck me.
Oh, damn. My album...
I don't want to be wrecked.
It is an album by Death Grips. It is called No Love Deep Web. It came out in 2012. And it was the album that they made to... I mean, to make an album, but it also broke them off of their major label that they were on for only one release, but they released this album outside of their labels. Their label did not want them to release it when they did. They released it for free, and they put a picture of the drummer's penis on the cover. So label didn't like that very much, and they got dropped. And it's kind of, I guess in a way, that means it's very important to their discography because they've been a completely, entirely DIY band since. And they were before the Money Store as well, but for one album, they were on a major label. Here on out, they were not. And, yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. I think you're familiar with them, but yeah, experimental hip-hop group, trio, and that is my rec. All right. So that was this episode of Get Recc'd. Do we have anything to say? Oh, you know what? We do have something to say. That we streamed on Friday, and we didn't even mention the fact that we weren't streaming on our scheduled day. That is just because I'm leaving for a vacation like tomorrow. I couldn't do it on Monday. That it doesn't mean that we're totally off schedule again. We just didn't really have a choice here, unless we wanted to extend it an extra week arbitrarily. But
yeah, no, in fact, you got an episode early even.
You did. So. Yeah. And you didn't even have to pay for our Patreon that we don't have.
No, but you did have to pay in likes and subscribes.
That's right. If you do not subscribe to this video, you are not getting episode 16.
Smash that like button, fam.
Yeah, let's go. We can get those likes to 5 likes. Can we get 5 likes?
Can we get 5 likes? Finally, for once in our life.
Yeah, are we done? Do you have anything else you want to say?
Nope, nothing else.
All right, well, those were our thoughts. Those were our recommendations. Get Recc'd.